What's up, everybody? My name is Greg Knight. I am one of the co-hosts of the Popping Collars podcast. We are still planning a Camino de Santiago trip, and it is coming up in a couple of weeks. But sometimes, if you want to know where you're going, you got to know where you've been. And that's what this video is about. We're going to be talking about the Camino origin story. How did we get to this point where we're talking about walking potentially 10 different pilgrimages on 6 different continents? And what are the stories that express this desire for pilgrimage? So here's how this episode's going to go. I reached out to some former youth members, chaperones that have participated with me on previous Camino journeys as part of my work for a local Episcopal church. They're going to explain to you what it is that they got out of pilgrimage, and it's also going to unpack a little bit of how I got to this point in the project and kind of point towards where we're going to go. Way back in 2015, the very first time we even thought about doing pilgrimage, I went to a group of our teenagers at the church where I was working as the Children and Youth Ministries Director, and I asked them, if we could do any project, what is it that you would want to do? And they mentioned walking the Camino de Santiago as a potential project for the year. So that's what we did. We organized a Camino trip in 2015. And here's how it went. We're coming up. We've passed 10 years ago that we did that first Camino. When you think back to that time, like, what is it that you remember about that first experience of like organizing and then finally walking the Camino?
Yeah, so organizing really stretches back to 2014. So we're going on almost 12 years
Yeah.
to when this was, a brainchild. And I was talking to my mom about this when you reached out to me, about how I was a freshman in high school when we watched that movie, The Way. Her and I had seen The Way, and we just made a comment to each other like, we're going to do that one day. That would be so awesome. You had this amazing idea, and we were both, I was so on board with it. Like, oh my gosh, this is going to be our chance to go on pilgrimage. And I thought this was just a dream. Like, this would be nice to do one day, but it actually came a lot quicker. This was an adventure like none other that felt very fitting for an 18-year-old. Like, I'm going off to college. This is a challenge. This is I'm carrying everything on my back. We're walking in a foreign country where I'm learning the language. It was just like the perfect adventure.
Did you feel well prepared for that trip? And did the trip match what you thought it was going to be in your head before you left?
Oh, it's so hard because I have to peel back the pilgrimages we've done that I've done as a chaperone now and get back into 2015, Maddie. I don't think anything could have prepared me for the mental challenge. I knew it was going to be hard physically. I knew that we probably didn't walk and train enough beforehand on our like flat sea level floor
Right.
terrain. But I was 18 and feeling good. My knees were good. Everything was fine. But I think just the mental challenge of, okay, everyone on that trip had kind of a day where they were really struggling. And it's not just trying to dig deep and find that strength for yourself, but also extend it beyond yourself with the group that, the people that you're walking alongside. Because I was not prepared for my mom to really struggle on that trip.
Right.
And to see her really break down, emotionally and physically, was a situation I had never been in before. I think, I had been very fortunate growing up and having a childhood where my mom was always the strong one taking care of me. I could always look up to her. And all of a sudden I was having to, help her with things that I'd never helped her with before. And I was scared. I was like, I don't think I can do this for her. I'm the child, she's the parent. But if she can't make it, I don't know if I can. But we did it. So following the success of the 2015 Camino trip, we then scheduled a pilgrimage to England
as the follow up. We wanted to learn a little bit more about the history of the Episcopal Church, where it came from, the Anglican Communion, all of that stuff. And so we ended up walking the Pilgrim's Way to Canterbury, to the cathedral in Canterbury. And here's a little bit more about what that journey was like.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, we got to start with the first one with Canterbury. And I mean, as we can all remember, I think I had a horrible time on that pilgrimage. I was 15, right? That was 2016, right? No, that
It
was
was
2017.
2020.
Yeah, because the other one was right when I graduated high school. So, yeah, I was 16, very unprepared for this physical journey. I was like, oh, how difficult can walking be? Like, come on. Physically was struggling very hard as a student, as a, 16-year-old girl, unprepped. However, the way that I was able to bond with the other youth, it really was just such a unique experience that I never grew up going to summer camp, but
Mhm.
I can only imagine that that's like as close as it could be. Like, when you would watch, like, I don't know, movies growing up and it's like the kids at summer camp and everybody's like, they have this like great bond and it's just like, wow, like you just had to be there. Like that was kind of the whole experience for me. And going through such a physically tough journey, they were the only ones that like were experiencing it. And of course, like the chaperones, but you guys are so much older than us, so it's like, all right, we are a unique set of kids
Mm-hmm.
in high school in Europe on a pilgrimage, which like nobody does. Like it's such a unique experience for somebody so young to be a part of that.
I asked you to do this. Why in the world did you and Ashley say yes?
It's a great question. So I remember that happened, and then we came back, and it was to the text of you reaching out. It was like, hey, I'm Greg. I'm part of the youth ministry here at Bethesda. Love to talk to you about the high school class. And it was one of those things where Ashley was pretty uncertain about doing it. She was
Mm-hmm.
not super excited about going to support high schoolers or to
Mm-hmm.
teach high schoolers, be surrounded by high schoolers. Um, but I was intrigued. I was like, okay, this, I like the idea of this, and I still remember that very first class. Um, it just connected. Like sitting in that
Yeah.
room the first day, I remember like Ashley connected with Kaylee, Ashley connected with Emma. They both played volleyball. I sat next to Hudson. We realized that we had the same birthday, and I realized for the first time in my life, I felt very old. At the time, I didn't actually know what I was getting myself into fully.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're gonna teach high school youth. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna do this trip, but I didn't actually know what that meant. You know what I mean? I had an idea of
Yeah.
what a pilgrimage was. I knew roughly what we were going to be doing, but I had no concept of what it meant or what it was going to do for me, what it was going to do for the kids, and why it was such a cool program. So we learned just as much as the kids learned.
Okay, we have made it to 2019. You can see the pattern here. Every other year we're doing these pilgrimage trips. And this time around we have the biggest group that we ever have for one of these pilgrimage groups, close to 30 people. And we're walking the way of St. Francis to Assisi, Italy, and the Basilica of St. Francis.
And
It's
it brought me back to church. It was one of the reasons I looked forward to going to church because, reflecting back at it, what I really saw was like the love of God through these kids, and I didn't register it like that back then. But yeah, it just kept drawing me back to church. And so that was the first experience. And the second one, which
second one, you weren't going to go. I had to
no,
talk you into it.
yeah, I was so grateful that I was convinced because the second one was just such a completely different experience. Italy was just something else. I mean, they all were, but Italy, I think for me at that time period too, it just was really kind of like a closing chapter and an opening chapter because I had just graduated high school. I was like, wow, this is like uh in a sense some sort of fashion like a graduation trip, but it was about the journey through Italy. And that was the first time too that I really kind of felt this like older sistership, mentorship, friendship. I don't know how to like, I don't know what term would properly describe it, But being now older, one of the older kids, and being able to reflect back to when I was 16, which was only a 2 year difference, but so much happens during that time, so much growth and change, and in general, I felt like I was able to really connect with some in the group that were really going through the hardship, because I felt like I really went through the hardship, and different types of circumstances from when, we did Italy to when I was the younger one in Canterbury. But that also just enabled a different connection.
What the whole class, it was the whole thing. The journey started with the class, right? That very first class for me, that was when the journey began, which I didn't realize until way after the fact, but that was the start of it. And I think the learning, the understanding, how it applies, the preparation, the planning, the thinking through how do we even make this happen, right? Logistics, funding, all that kind of stuff was really cool. And then the actual trip came, and it was so far better than any expectation I had.
Do you think that not knowing what to expect is the point of the work? Like, is that like the actual work of pilgrimage is not knowing what to expect?
I think so. I think, yes, I think there's a great parallel to that, because it forces you to trust the people you're going with. It forces you to rely on God. It forces you to have trust in the whole thing, in yourself, quite frankly, that, okay, I don't know what it is, but I know it's important, and I know I'm going to be able to figure this out. And then having the support of, you and the other leaders, having the support of Father James, knowing that we're doing this for God, and he's going to watch over us and take care of us. I think that's a really good point. That's part of the journey, the discovery of the whole thing. It's, can I do this physically? Can I do this mentally? Can I, am I able to navigate this path? Are we able to deal with the stuff that pops up, like a pub that doesn't serve food when we think it's going to?
And letting yourself feel all of it, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to be joyful. It's okay to be all of it, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and you really kind of find yourself through all that too, because there's really no other choice, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to feel all those things, but at the end of the day, okay, I'm real mad, and I got to keep walking, because
And I still got 5 miles. Yeah.
right, we're not going to sleep here. I don't have a tent.
Okay, so then COVID hits in 2020. International travel is shut down. So when we come back, it's 2022, and we're trying to figure out, okay, so what are our options, right? The world at large is still sort of recovering. So what are the places that have an infrastructure that's going to be up and running quickly? And the answer to that is the Camino in Spain. But we didn't want to do the Camino Frances again necessarily. Instead, we looked at another route, an alternate route to Santiago called the Camino Ingles. And that was our next journey, walking from Ferrol to Santiago de Compostela. So here's the real question that I have for you, though, because you have the distinction of something that a lot of people on this planet can't really say, which is that you've shown up at that cathedral twice in your life on two different journeys.
Mhm.
And when you think back to the second time that you arrived in Santiago, was it markedly different from the first time that you got there? Or did it feel like riding a bike? Like, oh yeah, I remember this. Like,
Um,
this is what it is.
so I would say it was actually pretty different because the facade in 2015, as we saw it in 2022, was all covered up.
Hmm.
And so I don't remember that plaza being full of people. I remember kind of entering from the side and all of us just being so exhausted and just staring. There's that photo of our group all in a row sitting on, I don't know, a planter and just all looking up like, wow, we did it, a little bit in shock, like we made it. And a sense of relief, a sense of accomplishment. But I think that sense of accomplishment was so much greater in 2022 because I was sitting behind and to the side of all of these teenagers who did this and were hugging each other and jumping and taking pictures and celebrating what they had just done. And to be able to watch as an outsider maybe what
Mm.
I felt back in 2015 with, my frontal lobe being a little bit more developed 7 years later was so beautiful. And I had such peace of like, this is so much bigger than myself. And that was the second time. And I don't think it'll be the last time. I think I'll go back again one day. I hope.
And it's interesting thinking back on every kid had a different thing that they needed. Some of them just headphones are in, let them go. Don't give them space, let them go. And then other ones, they'd want to tell jokes, or we would make up the craziest things, right? Of the mock NBA drafts of every variety, which ate up hours and hours of that trip, But it was raps, it was whatever. But I was less worried is the wrong word. I was less concerned about, can I do this for them and for me. I knew going into that second one, okay, I'm going to do it. It's going to be fine. But how else can I help the kids? What are they going to be feeling? What are they going to be needing? And how do I try to influence that and make sure that they have the best possible experience they can? Because I know kind of what to expect throughout this trip.
And then finally, we're going to wrap up with 2024. We wanted to do something a little more ambitious. And so we reached out to a pilgrimage company that set us up with a journey to Norway. And we were actually one of the first youth groups that walked this path to Trondheim, Norway, and Nidaros Cathedral in Trondheim. And here's a couple of stories about that journey. What do you think just having those experiences did for you personally?
First, I think it taught me that you don't need very much to have a good time, a good adventure. Like just the simplification of, you have a few outfits and your backpack and maybe a deck of cards, and you're eating simple food, and you just don't really remember any of that stuff. And if anything, you look back and you think, man, I wish I could live my normal life that simply. And coming back to our lives back at home, let's say, it's almost too complicated. Like, I almost crave the simplicity of pilgrimage. So that would be the first thing, is that, you really don't need a lot to live, or to have a really great trip and a really great time. I think second death would just be resilience. That's really, whether it's your knee hurting, or the group that there being drama in the group that you have, or your clothes being wet, or it's been raining for 5 hours straight and you're soaking wet and cold. But you've got to hold it together, because there's a bunch of kids who need you to hold it together for them. And resilience is the word that I think of. Simplicity and resilience.
And of course, it was just absolutely stunning. And even though I feel like it was like the terrain was different than Canterbury, and it was more physically exhausting because it was so hot, we're actually going up and down like literal mountains.
Big hills. Yeah, big hills.
Yeah, okay, yeah, big hills. To me, us Floridians, that's a mountain, okay? It was like, I don't know, it just like I felt like I was able to get through it better, And then Norway, coming back as a chaperone, was then a completely different experience.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, okay, wow, like I'm still young, because I can't believe it's about to be 2 years since Norway. That's also crazy. I'm 24, so just relatively fresh out of college, and I'm a nurse, and I'm taking care of these kids now. So it just also puts another level on top of it. So now I get to see it from the ends of true leadership, of things that you have to, like, you may not consider that people are going through or struggling with, and how can you be the person to kind of mediate whatever it is that they're going through, and both like an emotional, spiritual, and physical way, being part of the medical. Norway was unique in that sense too. It was just from, wow, like I'm here, I'm a leader, I'm an example, and I remember what this was like and what an experience it was. And the thing that I was most in awe about was that I thought all of those kids, even though some were struggling physically, because of course it's such a long hike, and now we're in Norway in a forest, so
Those
it's
are mountains. Yeah.
yeah, those are the real mountains. And, with the cold, rainy, on and off weather, like, that type of terrain. And every single one of those kids wanted to do it every single one of those days. And I was like, man, like, you guys are so strong and you guys don't even see it. And I'm not even talking physically, I'm talking like emotionally, because I would, I would dread it when it was me. I was like, especially in Canterbury. Oh my gosh. But I was just so impressed and so moved by them and their desire to like do this. And they they were engaged. Like they were engaged in the conversations. They were engaged in hearing everybody out and talking about what God was doing through them through that day and what they were able to observe. And honestly, they just had so much compassion for one another, which was amazing, and inclusion as well. So
Yeah.
that was really powerful and moving to see as a leader. And yeah, that trip was very special as well. And I feel like the kids were very polite. They understood. They were just very much like, I want to be here and I want to take part in somebody, in this culture and learn more about, St. Olaf and this trip in general. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it was really something. Each one of those pilgrimages had something in store for everybody, and it was each unique.
So there you have it. A bit of the origin story, a bit of a look back at where we came from, where we're going. Now that's a whole different story. That actually is going to be something really exciting, and we're going to talk about it next time. We have one more prep video before we leave for Santiago, and then after that prep video, we're going to start giving you guys some of the content that we're going to be making while we're in Spain. It's going to be really exciting. Really looking forward to what's coming up next. Hope you'll join us. So check out all of our upcoming videos, and we'll see you next time.